much for joining me. My name is Sperber. I am a real estate agent in Reno, Nevada. Today, we are going to be doing a quick market update for the last week of July and also a market prediction and what this might mean for buyers and sellers. But before we get into all of that, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button so that you don't miss any of my upcoming content. All right, I have some stats here for you. These are for the week that ended on July 16th as of today, which is the 22nd. These are the most up-to-date statistics that I have access to for you. So I'm going to go through them, and then I'm going to share a little bit about what my interpretation of this data actually means for buyers and sellers, and maybe a prediction of where I think this market is headed. So let's dive in. Our median sales price for the week that ended on July 16th was $544,500. Now remember, that's just a median. And sales price is one of those numbers where this really tells you kind of what happened 6 weeks in arrears. This isn't actually, there's no way to really track this in real time. So this number is really a reflection of 6 weeks ago. I suspect if you looked at the median price as of today, it would be a little bit lower. All right, closed sales. So for the same week ending on July 16th, the number of closed sales in our market was 112. That's actually a 20.4% increase from the week before. The sold price per square foot was $321, really close to the week before, which was $320. Percent of list price received. So that number ended at 99%, just slightly under the week before. But that means that people are still getting 99% of what they're asking for. It still is a seller's market. It's just cooling off, but we're going to get into all of that. And this is the biggest change. So days to contract. So this is how many days properties sat on the market before they went into contract, was 30. And that is a 25% increase from the week before. All right, so let's talk about what these numbers actually mean for buyers and sellers. Obviously, prices are going down, days on market are increasing. So that tells us that the market is cooling down. Now, we've been in an insane seller's market. Like, properties were leaving the market within a couple of hours of being listed. There were like 30 to 40 offers on every property, so it was super competitive. So I actually am welcoming this change. This is going to be good for buyers overall. I know that interest rates are higher than they were, so that has, lessened the buying power for buyers right now, because a home, at 2.5% or whatever it was during COVID, now at, in the fives, that's a huge price to pay per month. Like, your monthly payment is going to go up a lot. So I totally understand that that is a difficult thing to swallow, and it's pricing some people out of the market. However, these interest rates are not going to be around forever. So keep that in mind. We're going to get back to that topic in a minute. So you're probably wondering, if you're a buyer, is now a good time to buy a home? And I can give you that answer in the context of the market. But obviously, whether or not you should buy a home really just depends on you and your finances and your specific situation. I say this all the time. If you watch a lot of my videos, you probably already know, or if you follow me on TikTok or Instagram, I talk about this a lot. Your perfect timing is a deeply personal thing as far as your finances, as far as your future plans. So are you making this investment into your home as your forever home? Are you at least planning to stay for 5 or more years? Or is this something that is kind of an interim situation that you're going to need to sell in the next couple of years? Because you really need to vet all of that information before you can decide whether or not right now is a good time to buy. In my opinion, real estate is almost always a good investment if you are planning to hold it for the long term, because over time, eventually, no matter what, it's going to increase in value, right? Unless, you do something to like royally mess up the actual value of the property, something drastic. But that aside, over time, you almost always will see a good return. There may be ups and downs within that. So if you're, one of these short-term holders, this might not be a good market for you to buy in. But overall, if you're thinking 5 or more years, I'd say you're totally safe to buy and invest right now. I also would like to point out the fact that right now is a super special and window of time that's rapidly closing in our market, just because, yes, a lot of buyers just got priced out like overnight with the rising of interest rates. So I understand that. And for those buyers, I super feel for you. Like, I know that that's really hard, especially after 2 years of submitting multiple offers and waiting for your turn to get picked. And then boom, you are priced out. So I don't want to be insensitive about that. And your day is going to come. The interest rates are going to drop. That being said, if you are still looking to purchase and you are not priced out of getting into the market right now, this is kind of a very special and unique time to buy, because you are no longer competing with all of those buyers who just got priced out. So when we were seeing, a year ago, 30, 40 offers on every property, now we're seeing, 5 or less. And so you have a much greater chance of getting into a home. And if you're getting in at a higher rate now, when they go down, you can always refinance. So you have this opportunity that's less competitive, even at a higher rate, but the rate isn't forever. So that's one key point I want to make. Another thing I'd like to point out, and obviously this kind of goes along with the basic economic principles of supply and demand, because there's so much less competition, sellers, especially those who are in a position in their lives where they have to sell, maybe they're moving, maybe, there was, I don't know, a divorce, whatever the reason, life situation that they may be facing that's forcing them to sell quickly, you have a great opportunity to get in and get a good deal, because there aren't as many offers coming their way, right? So I'm seeing all kinds of things on the seller side. I'm seeing prices come down, which we're seeing anyway, because that is what the market is dictating. But I'm also seeing sellers who are appraising or bridging the appraisal gaps between the appraised value and the purchase price. I'm seeing sellers, make more repairs on the homes or give more credit for repairs, all kinds of things. So this is kind of a special and unique time. You're not going to have this probably several months from now when the interest rates begin to go back down. And all of a sudden, all those buyers who are kind of competing are kind of getting back into a place where they can play in this market. So if you are able to buy right now, I'd say do it and then refi later on, because I'm seeing crazy concessions. Like, I literally just closed a deal today that the buyer got the home for $25K under asking because the appraisal didn't come back at asking, and the sellers just conceded. They just gave that credit. Now, $25,000 is a lot of money, and if you're going to pay a high interest rate for a few months, I doubt it's going to equate to $25,000. Now, if you get into a home, months from now, and they're not making those kinds of concessions, even at a lower rate, I feel like you still may not be getting that good of a deal. All right, let's touch on the seller side of things right now. So, unfortunately, if you're selling your home now, you kind of missed the top of the market. So that being said, you're going to have to be a little bit more open to your home probably sitting on the market longer. You're probably going to have to be open to more showings, more open houses. You're going to have to give your agent some more opportunities to market your home, because it's going to take a little bit more effort to get it sold. You also need to prepare for a longer timeline, as I mentioned. And beyond that, there are going to be some concessions that you're probably going to have to make. You may have to come down in price. You may have to cover more repair costs. You may have to cover appraisal gaps. And you may have to be a little bit more flexible on your timeline in favor of the buyers, not just as far as like how long it takes to get into contract, but like maybe the only buyer that comes your way needs a short or long escrow, and you may have to just be okay with that and make whatever accommodations for yourself to accommodate that. On that note, I just want to clarify that it is still a seller's market. So it's not a bad time to sell your home. It's just not how it was even like 3 months ago. A balanced market is when there are about 6 months of inventory available online. most recent figure that I have is for the closing out of June, and we ended with 2.8 months of inventory. So we're about almost halfway there from where we were, but we still have a ways to go before it's completely imbalanced, right? So I'm not trying to discourage sellers. I'm just trying to set realistic expectations for how you should envision the sale of your home going. And now, as promised, I do want to touch on a prediction, what I think is going to happen in this market. So, obviously, or maybe it's not obvious, but data tells us and history tells us we are not going to see a housing crash. If you're thinking that, like, turn off the news, stop Googling it. It's not going to crash. And the reason why is because loans were given out on much more stringent laws and circumstances than they were back in 2007 in that whole era when everything did crash, right? So, like, lenders aren't just giving out bad loans to people who can't afford them. They have to actually verify income and all the things that make you a worthy buyer. So that's one reason. And another reason is equity. I'm actually just going to pull up a quick figure right now. Sorry, this was unplanned. Okay, the average homeowner in the US gained $64,000 in equity last year. The average homeowner in Nevada gained $91,000 of equity in the past year. And that's just 1 year. So if you bought your home with any time in the last year, you gained so much. So even if prices come down a little bit, it's still going to be a while before you even hit the value like for which you paid for your home, right? And if you bought your home like before a year ago, like you're doing great. Like I don't think you have a whole lot to worry about. So when people have equity in their home, it makes for a much more stable environment, right? So I don't foresee a crash. What I do foresee, though, is that prices will come down slightly, and that's just a matter of supply and demand. We are cooling off, and that's okay. That's healthy. I think where we were at was like not healthy. And I do think that in the next several months, the interest rates are going to come back down. And when that happens, as I mentioned, all these buyers who were priced out are now going to be back in the running for home sales. And you know what that's going to do because it's going to drive up the demand, which will decrease the supply. It's just going to be like back into the groove. So I really feel honestly like this is a good time to capitalize on the current environment and invest, buy the home that you want, deal with the interest rate later at that point when it comes down. And I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is going to happen? Because obviously I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a psychic. I don't really know what's going to happen. These are just guesses, educated guesses because I work in the market daily. But, nonetheless, they're just predictions. So if you have your own prediction, I would love to hear it. I'd love to talk about real estate. I love nerding out on data. So go ahead and put that in the comments below. I promise that I will respond. And hey, if you are looking to make a move in real estate in the next year, I would love to connect with you. I'd love to be a resource for you. I obviously work here in Reno, but I have people in my network all over the country. So hit me up. There's a link to book a call with me in the description box below. It's just a 30-minute discovery call where I can get to know you, find out what your needs are, and make sure that if you have questions that I give you answers. It's not it doesn't cost anything. It's no obligation. It's literally just for your benefit. So go ahead and do that. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like and that subscribe button down below so that you don't miss any of my upcoming content. All right. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next week.